Good evening, and welcome to this Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. I hope that you all have had a great weekend. We are starting a brand new week. This week kicks off a 5-part series entitled In the Kitchen. And if you know anything about me, you know that I am a self proclaimed foodie. I absolutely love to cook, love to play around in the kitchen. So I'm going to be taking some great notes from all of these professionals all week long. As always, whenever you get onto the broadcast, be sure to chime in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from tonight. We're going to give everyone maybe a moment or two to get on, and then we're going to be ready to get it started with our Ray of Motivation moment. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Ray of Motivation moment. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I want to ask you, what are you willing to cut? What are you willing to cut? So, again, we've already talked about that this week is going to be a 5-part series on In the Kitchen. And when I think about cutting, particularly in the kitchen, I think about, am I willing to, trim all the fat off the, pork chop before I sear it? Am I willing to take off the skin, cut that skin off before I cook the chicken? Because, the skin is the best part. That's one way of looking at the question, what are you willing to cut, especially with this series on In the Kitchen? But that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cutting those losses, cutting those people out of your life before you lose yourself. I read somewhere, I don't know, I don't want to take credit for this quote, but I read somewhere some years ago that you have to be willing to cut your losses, because just because you made a mistake for a long time, that doesn't mean that you should stay in that mistake. And so that might be a profession. That might be a relationship. That might be a neighborhood where you are living and your environment. There are so many things that from time to time we need to examine what we are willing to cut out of our lives. Lose some things so that you don't lose yourself. And that is your Ray of Motivation moment for this Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. Well, tonight, as I mentioned, we have a very special guest. She was voted as Charlotte's best vegan chef. She has a brand new cookbook. She has exploded onto the culinary scene to rave reviews. And let me tell you, I have had her quote unquote pulled pork sandwich, and I promise you, it fooled a chef, like a chef who eats meat. So please help me welcome Chef Joya. Chef Joya, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm just curious. I know that you have had a love of food and you've eaten vegan cuisine for many years. You're not like a recent convert. How did you get your start, though, in what you're doing now as a professional chef?
Oh, goodness. So you actually were a part of the start. When
That
I met you.
conversation that we had?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. And you, it's just I'm just thinking back. I'm like, oh my gosh, she was there. But years ago, something I always wanted to do. I was always fascinated. It was just like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be doing. And I was always, good at it. And I took it onto a vegan level, because it was like more of the market for it, because I really didn't want to get into the vegan side of it. But when I did, they embraced me so, because it was like I was like this missing ingredient that I didn't know that people needed. And so it just was like, it just went up from there.
So now, what have you been doing for the past few months in terms of social distancing and staying at home? Have you been able to still work? Because I've seen a few chefs post, from behind the scenes in kitchens with masks on when they've been doing private dinners.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I've been able to work. Actually, since the whole COVID thing happened, the world stopped. And I remember, like, this was like in March when the world stopped, and I was just like, okay, so what do I do? And I was like, let me do this book, because I had, been talking about this cookbook, and every day I would get like inboxes and DMs like, hey, do you have a cookbook? When is this cookbook coming out? So literally I sat down for 2 days and wrote a cookbook. And after I completed that, I was like, well, people are so like, gonna get food. I'm like, well, I'm not doing gatherings and dinners, like public dinners and buffets anymore. So I started offering more of the meal prep, because I had stopped meal prepping like last year, because I was focused on more of the larger crowds. So I started doing the meal prepping and allowing people to pick up. And then, so that I was doing that for a while. And I just recently stopped doing that, because now I'm back into doing the private dinners. And it's been going really well. It's like, you got your mask, got your gloves. It's like everybody having a good time. And it's just back to business.
That is awesome. I remember when that conversation was, and I did not realize that was the beginning, because I had already sampled your food. But your success, you've quickly grown in the culinary industry. What do you attribute to that success?
Um,
I mean, besides good food. I mean,
right.
but let's keep it real. We know some people who don't cook, but it's just a name on it, and they market it well. And you like, how are people eating this stuff? Because it's nasty, but
Yeah.
the food is good. Let's
Right.
let's just make that clear. The food is good.
Right. My success, I guess it's just really, I think the biggest thing is that people love, like, they love me. So it's kind of like they get a piece of me, and I'm very personable. I'm very reachable. I don't make myself like, I can't, like a lot of time in the culinary world, the chefs have like a persona, or they're not available and things like that. So it's kind of like with this, I feel like so many people have drawn to me, not because of just my food is really, really great. I'm attainable. They can get to me. They can ask me questions. I'm resourceful. I educate them. I want them to know better so they can do better. So, so it's kind of like I become like your homegirl, your sister, your auntie, your best friend. So
Now, you've already been on television, on reality TV, working with a couple on the OWN network. How did that opportunity come about, and what was that like?
Oh gosh, so that opportunity, it was so crazy. I remember before it happened, I remember this couple, they were at this place called the Barn. This is when I first started, vending, and I would set up at this farmer's market, and they were just staring at me, and I was just like, okay. And they were sitting across the table, but I didn't think anything of it. They got their food, and I'm like, okay, something wrong with their food, but I just let it go. And then one day I was actually on set I was doing makeup, and then I got a phone call from a producer, and they were asking about catering options and things of that nature. And it was like, and then they ended up saying, well, the cast want you specifically, they want you to prepare the Thanksgiving dinner. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, they said they had your food before, and they want your food. They want you to be there. I'm like, okay. So they end up connecting us, and literally I'm coming to bring food, and then it's the cameras, and I'm like, oh, hi. Like right before they had me sign his papers, I'm like, okay. Then I get there, like, the camera's here, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that was pretty cool. And they end up being like a really, really good client of mine that, support me all the time.
That is awesome. And, you just mentioned, I did not mention this, but you mentioned it kind of like you were working on some makeup. You also do makeup.
Yeah.
And because I am a creative, I understand that creating food and great recipes, it has, there's a similar passion involved when you create great looks for makeup. But how do you make the two work?
You know, the makeup world for me is I put it in like a different corner now that I'm more focused on the vegan cuisine. That's because it's like it's the new baby and it's like the makeup has blossomed. It's like kind of like in its teenage phase. So people that, you know, I still do it for like productions, like commercials, short films and things like that. And the people that know how to get in contact with me through the film agencies and stuff like that, I still work and do those opportunities. I'm not like doing like small like things anymore or like weddings and stuff like that. So I still work on that. And I can't say now, but I actually got something that's gonna bring the food and the makeup together. I'm excited. I
Oh,
know. I'm so excited about it. So I'm actually bringing those two together. So, because I
cool.
kind of miss, even though you let your little teenager go, you kind of miss them. Like, come back home a little bit.
That's funny. That's a great analogy. Well, you
Yeah.
have a question from one of our very strong supporters. Edwin is on the line for a question for you.
Okay. I've been working in a restaurant for 16 years. I wasn't going to cook now. Oh man. See, I'm not sure if I can answer that because I refuse to work in a restaurant. I've never worked in a restaurant before. And I hear that a lot about burnout. When I do talk to other chefs that have experience working in a restaurant, it's very tough, long hours. 'Cause I barely sleep, but I think it's different when I'm working for myself. Um, I don't. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe step away. I guess this is just coming from Joy. This is not from experience. This is just from what Joy would do. If I felt like I was getting burnt out by doing something that I'd done for 16 years, I probably would step away from it for a moment, try to find the joy in it, and try to find out if it does give me joy, if what I'm truly doing is giving me joy. If I can be passionate about it, how I feel about it when I'm doing it, and maybe take it to a different avenue where you are doing it for yourself, where you're developing, getting your own clients when you're a business for yourself. That way, you feel good about it because it's serving yourself on a platter. That's what I would say, do.
Okay. Now, we are in the midst of a great focus on Black Lives Matter, consuming more Black culture and content. Do you think this will impact the culinary industry? And if so, how?
I hope so. I definitely hope so. I think things are starting to be recognized. I do see a lot more companies are posting things right now. I'm not sure, it's too early to tell to see what actually, what action is actually happening, but they're starting to bring more Black people to the forefront, which is really great, which I think is awesome because we are a lot of times those people that's behind the scenes, that's doing a lot of the work, being the innovators, being the creatives. We just, don't get the credit for it. So
Well, you
hopefully,
go
yeah,
ahead.
so hopefully that changes.
Okay. Now you mentioned that one of the things that you've done during this time of kind of the world being on pause is that you finish your cookbook and it's
Hmm.
out. So tell us
Yeah.
about the book.
Yeah, so my cookbook is called It's Soul Amazing. It is a vegan soul food cookbook. And I particularly I wanted that one to be the very first cookbook that I brought out, just because of my own journey and my struggle with soul food. Before I was even vegan, and even though I grew up, so let me say, I grew up vegan as a child. And then I had a break when I got older, became an adult. And then I just had this thing against soul food. It was like it's slave food, it's bad food, it's bad health. I had this big thing about it. And then one day I just stopped and I just had gotten deep thought about like what is, soul food. And I thought about how it was there to nourish our bodies. We took what we had and made the best of it. And it wasn't the healthiest things, but it was the most flavorful things. And people to this day request it of all walks of life. So with it being soul food, I wanted, when I became a vegan chef, I wanted to take those same things and just elevate it. Of course, take the meat out and all those good things, but then also create in a way where it has elevated flavors to it, so people can know that vegan food isn't flavorless. So it has all the spices, all the seasonings, you're not missing anything at all. So like the cookbook is full. It has about 23 different recipes. It's just inspiration from some of my childhood memories, to my mentor, Chef Lisa. One of her dishes is in there. And then just things up for my grandmother and my mother, because my mother's a vegan chef as well. So I just, I was taking inspiration from pretty much my life and put it all into a book. And it's been doing great.
Okay, so now explain to me the amazing, because I've seen that a lot on your social media, and I've been trying to figure it out. I'm like, ma as in no meat, ma. Like I've been trying to figure it out.
So I talk really fast, and one day I was saying something about it being more than amazing, and just ended up being amazing, and so amazing.
See, okay.
So that's where that word came from. And people's like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. And I'm like, what? It's like amazing. So it just stuck with me.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You got another question.
What is the biggest no-no in your kitchen? I don't know. But we can't have any meat, no dairy. No playing.
You said no what?
No too much playing.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
All right, we got another question for you.
The cookbook is out now. You can get it online on my website at www.cookingwithjoya.com.
Awesome. So what's next for Joya?
Oh, so the next thing that I'm actually actively working on, and it should be complete real soon. I'm doing a summer guide for the movement, the BLM movement. That's going to be charity donated. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but that's going to be proceeds are going to be donated to different organizations for it. So that's going to be the new thing that I'm working on, and that should be completed very soon. And then I also have another cookbook that's going to be coming out, and I'm shooting for that date in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Got another question. Hey, Josette.
Favorite spices. Oh gosh. So I tell everybody, I'm gonna start with seasonings, okay? Anytime you're cooking, I tell everybody, you always have to have salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder. Very basic. Anytime you're cooking. So my things I love to have is smoked paprika. I love my cumin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with vegan cooking, you want your smoked paprika, you want cumin. I use garam masala because I do like cooking a lot of West Indian dishes. Curry is really good spices to have. What else do I use a lot of? You got your oregano. Tarragon is big for me too. And this one isn't considered a spice, but in vegan cooking, it's a must-have, and it's called liquid smoke. Have you used that before?
I haven't, but I know what you're talking about, because Bragg's that do the apple cider vinegar, I think they have a version of liquid smoke, and I've been seeing that and the liquid aminos, and I'm ready to try those liquid aminos.
Yes, liquid aminos is really good too, and they have the coconut aminos for people who don't like to do soy or gluten. The coconut aminos is good for that. But yeah, the liquid smoke it elevates, it amps up all your dishes. So especially things that usually have like smoked turkey or barbecue flavors and things like that, it gives that same smell to your food.
Okay. Now, you maybe about a year or so ago, you were cooking in Atlanta, and you got a chance to meet Tabitha Brown. Watching her journey has just been amazing as well. All of her success. Mm-hmm. What dish did she eat of yours?
Well, actually, when Tabitha first had my food, it was here in North Carolina.
Okay.
There was the festival of Charlotte. Well, North Carolina's first Soulful Veg Fest, Soulful Veg Fest. And that day I made orange paprika salmon, candy yams, black and white greens, and my mac and cheese. And she was like, she lost it. She was like, she ain't never, she said, I ain't never had no greens that taste like this mac and cheese. And she said, salmon. Like, she was blown away. And I remember giving her food. And I was like, I'm very shy. So I went to give her her food and I tried to walk, but she was like, get back over here. Like, no. Like, I got to tell people who just made this food. So I'm over there like, hi. Like, and she's very nice, very sweet. And then that day too, we also had a collard green contest, which I ended up winning because it was a couple other different chefs and people that entered in, and she was blown away. Like, she was blown away, so much so that during the holidays last year, I shipped food for her and her family. Her parents came to visit, and I shipped food there part of the holiday dinner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That is amazing. Okay.
amazing. Yes, yes.
You said black and white greens. I was like, hold up. I had never heard of that. Like, I've heard of mixing mustards and turnips and all that. But what's the black and white? What's the black and white greens? I had never
So
heard of that one.
yeah, so the black and white greens is a mixture of cabbage and collard greens, and that's my mom's recipe. That's something that she did years ago. I think maybe in the 80s or 90s. Can't remember her story, but she was cooking for a mass amount of people,
Hmm.
and she had to fill it. And cabbage was a lot less, so she combined the two and came with the black and white greens, and they are a hit. They're really really good.
Oh, okay. That is
Oh, hey,
good.
what advice do I have for transitioning vegans? When people are transitioning to vegan, I always tell them, you know, I don't suggest doing cold turkey unless you're ready. And try to keep yourself with familiar foods. Don't be too hard on yourself. If so sometimes people have a slip up or they didn't know something was in there, then they like, forget it, I can't do it. I'm just not gonna do it anymore. No, just start back over the next day, get right back on track. And I would say read labels. That is going to be the most important thing that you can do because like things like potato chips have milk in it. Like
Mm.
even Worcestershire sauce is made with anchovies. I didn't know that for a long time. And it's just like reading the labels. And sometimes you'll find that even like things that say chicken broth or onion soup mix are actually end up being vegan because it doesn't have any real chicken fat or anything in there. It says like flavoring, but it doesn't have the actual products in it. So I would say read your labels. Don't be too hard on yourself. Try to keep familiar foods and then start to explore and expand because there's no wrong way to do it unless you start eating meat and dairy and all the other stuff. But being vegan has so many different avenues to being soy free, gluten free, or just eating your soul food, or being alkaline or raw. So just baby step it until you figure out which way you want to go with your eating habits.
All right. You got another question.
What is your opinion of organic food? Things that are outside of healthy. Um, um, if
Mm.
if you can, I'm like, do I answer that for real? No. So the organic, my opinion on organic foods is, I mean, of course they're good for you. If they're truly organic, then go for the truly organic items if you can afford them. If it's something that's out of your price range and you can still find a good quality vegetable that's not necessarily organic, make sure you get it. Just wash it to all you can. But if you can, try to get as much as organic as possible. Try to support like your local farmers markets because they
Oh,
typically
yeah.
have a lot of organic food already. And you don't have that same price point that you do at some of these major retailers.
All right. So, what advice would you have for someone who may be like you, maybe some years ago, just know that they have a passion for food, but they are not quite sure how to get started with an actual business?
I would definitely say, if you can find someone find and talk to someone that's actually in the business. And I'll tell you right now, it wasn't easy for me. I talked to so many people, and it took about 2 years, maybe a year or 2 years. And just connect with somebody that really wants to assist you and help you. And you can study on it because not only did I find someone, but I was studying, I was looking for my own resources. I was asking questions. Like I was just talking to any and everybody. I was learning what not to do and what to do just by asking people questions, because some people give you information, some people won't. Sometimes you have to find on your own, and just don't give up. If you know that's what you want to do, just keep going. Like anything I feel like you're passionate enough about, it's going to happen for you. It will happen.
What's your bestseller right now? And the thing that is just requested over and over and over again.
Mac and cheese.
Okay.
Mac and cheese. It's like I can't do anything without having mac and cheese at all. And that started from when I first broke into the vegan world. I did the mac and cheese contest in July of 2018. And ever since then, it has followed me everywhere where I go. Like any competition I do, I win with mac and cheese. Even if it's non-vegan competitions, I do a vegan mac and cheese, and it's like everybody like just blown away. And I'm like, mac and cheese? But hey,
Well,
it became my thing.
yeah, and even though it's vegan, we love cheese.
Yeah, and
People love cheese.
I do so many different things with it. Like in the future, not now, but I have some plans to do something with some mac and cheese, because it's great. It's really great, and it's very versatile, and people absolutely love it. So I got something in the works for that.
Okay. Now, I know you answered the question about, how advice that you would give for people who are transitioning to vegan. What about advice you would give for people who are not only transitioning to vegan, but they want to be able to cook some things at home? Because, there's some great vegan restaurants out there.
Mhm.
I had a client, had nothing to do with the restaurant business, but I had a client who wanted to meet she was vegan. She wanted to meet at a vegan restaurant. And I was like, oh, okay, I can not eat meat. I'm not that big, I don't have to eat meat. So yeah, but I loved it. It was called Sunflower Cafe in Atlanta. And I,
Uh-huh.
I think it's now closed.
Okay.
But yeah, for those who want to start figuring out things that they can do at home without just eating salads all the time, because that is not what being vegan is all about. I do know that it's not about eating salads all the time.
Right, right. I would definitely say that get my cookbook. I have 23 recipes in there. That's great. Follow some great people that's on Instagram and on YouTube. For instance, me. And there's there and Chef Corinne. Her name is Corinne Rochelle. She's on YouTube. She's super great. There's so many different chefs. Like there's Sunny. There's let's see, one great vegan, pineapple vegan. There's so many different food bloggers. So I would say check out their recipes. And then honestly too, at home, if you are already cooking, just take the meat out. So like if you start with your sides, start pulling the meat out of there, grab you some liquid smoke, because that is going to help you. Make sure you have your seasons and your spices. And then when you move to your entrees, start off with mushrooms, and then lentils. And you can also use chickpeas and things like that you would want to be able to play around with.
Okay. So we have a question from one of our YouTube viewers.
Okay. Oh. I think this for you, Angela.
Oh, I think that okay, so Taylor, I'm not vegan. Joya is. So she can probably answer that question better for you.
Oh, okay. So I've actually been vegan, newly vegan again, born again vegan, so about 2.
Girl, did you take it back to the water?
For about 2 years. My mom, we grew up vegan. So at 7 years old, I was vegan. That's a long time ago. 7 years old, we were vegan, which is over 20 something years ago. And I stayed that way till, my teens. I started like sneaking little things, and I got grown. I was full blown. I'm not vegan anymore. But yeah. Was that all of the question? I'm sorry, I didn't see all of it.
I think so.
Okay.
But how long did you said you were born again? So when
May of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your anniversary of being recommitted. Okay. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this Meatless Monday?
Well, if you all are not following me on any platforms, make sure you go ahead. I'm all over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm more active on Instagram than I am on any of the other platforms. But you'll go ahead and follow me at Cooking with Joya. I'm always doing different tips and tricks. I collaborate with different chefs and different brands just so I can be able to spread out more knowledge to you all so you can have more access to things because a lot of people don't know things that's out there that's available. And I just want to make sure everybody knows what their options are. And I think that's like both of my parents are educators and they're always teaching. So I'm always like willing to teach and want people to learn like what's out there because I don't want you to ever think it's just one way to do something. And there's so many different brands. There's so many different things. So make sure you go ahead and follow me. Again, at Cooking with Joya, so you can stay on top of this veganism journey. Or if you just want to, dibble and dabble or call yourself plant-based, whatever you want to do, just come on over to my page. I'll help you out.
All right, we got one more question, and now we're flipping it back to your other profession.
Oh, drink water. Thank you so much. Definitely drink a lot of water. And for my skin, I typically cleanse, toned with hazel, and I moisturize, and that's it. I'll do nothing special to it.
But you're also vegan, so I'm, what you put inside your body,
like the impurities,
Yeah, it does. It makes a difference. When I eat well,
it absolutely makes a difference.
Even if I'm eating meat, but even when I eat well, I can tell a difference in my skin than when I, acting like I'm in college again, eating pizza at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
That happened though too. When I first became vegan, my skin kind of like broke out because my body was detoxing and it was so ugly. I was like, what is wrong? But my body was detoxing and everything. So everything came out on my skin and it's been good. It's been good ever since. So yeah.
Okay. We got another question.
Have you ever had digestive issues with certain? Yes. So if mine have been with eating too much tofu at one point, and that's a whole nother thing. I don't want to get into that, but if you're gonna tofu, I don't say it's bad for you, but you want to make sure you eat everything in moderation. Too much of certain things is just way too much because it's the way your body handles it and digests it. And for me, it makes me bloated if I do too much of it. And I'm talking like if I do it like multiple days in a row. So if I do like the tofu or things like that, I would, split it out throughout the week. And then there is like my tummy, I can't do too much of like the, pea protein that's in a lot of the meat substitutes. It just my stomach doesn't do well with pea protein, but everybody is different. So you definitely will have to try it out, see what works for you or what doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you to everyone who chimed in tonight. All of the great questions. Definitely saw some newcomers tonight. Thanks. Shout out to all of our day ones, our faithfuls. Shout out to Josette. Josette asked you the question about spices. That was my college roommate.
Nice.
Yeah. So, thank you everyone for being on tonight. Make sure, I think that it's scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now. Make sure you connect with Joya. I mean, there are times she from start to finish on her Instagram. It'll be real fast. So she makes the video real fast like she talk. But
it goes really fast.
It really does. But you can see so many different demos. Sometimes she'll even take you on a grocery store excursion where you can follow her in the grocery store. She'll show you exactly what to buy, because I know sometimes that is an issue as well, kind of knowing what to buy, what grocery stores, particularly if you feel like you live in an area that may not have everything that a major metropolitan city, but you'd be surprised what's tucked in to the aisles. I worked at a grocery store when I was in high school, and I did not grow up vegan, vegetarian, nothing like that. However, because I worked in a grocery store and I saw people buying things, oftentimes I would ask, what is this? How does it taste? So I found myself kind of exploring with being a vegetarian long before I even knew what it was, because it was available because I worked in a grocery store. So it's interesting how you learn that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Well, we will be on. Ironically, you mentioned Chef Lisa. Chef Lisa will be my guest on tomorrow night.
Nice.
Yeah, she will be my guest on tomorrow night. And we have a number of special chefs. We got a PBS chef on Wednesday, and we're going to round out the week. So 5 days in a row, you can get your culinary fix every single night on the Angela Ray Show. to Chef Joya, who kicked off our series tonight for Meatless Monday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that's it for this Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would just like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror will not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.